I'm fidgeting with my napkin when Mom passes the mashed potatoes across our familiar maple dining table on Sunday evening. The silver serving spoon catches the light from the chandelier, the same one that's hung in this suburban Boston dining room since I was a child. Something about tonight feels off. The warmth seems forced, like they've cranked up the thermostat to compensate for the chill that's existed between us for months. More potatoes, Kendra? Mom's smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. I'm good, thanks. I glance at Jessica, my brother's wife, who quickly looks away. She's been doing that all evening, making eye contact, then darting her gaze elsewhere as if she knows something I don't. Darren clears his throat, passing the gravy boat to Dad without looking at me. They've all been exchanging these knowing glances throughout dinner, like actors waiting for their cue in a play I didn't know I'd been cast in. The roast is perfect tonight, Mom, I say, trying to cut through the strange tension. Thank you, sweetheart. She beams, but it feels rehearsed. I remembered how much you love it with rosemary. I take a sip of water, noting how they've brought out the good crystal tonight. The last time these glasses appeared was when Dad announced his retirement 3 years ago. Something significant is happening, and judging by the way everyone but me seems prepared, I'm the only one not in on the secret. When dessert arrives, apple pie with vanilla ice cream melting into warm cinnamon pools, Dad finally clears his throat. The sound cuts through the room like a starter pistol. Kendra, we need to discuss something important. My fork pauses midway to my mouth. Mom suddenly becomes very interested in adjusting the table runner, smoothing out invisible wrinkles with trembling fingers. What's up? I ask, setting my fork down. Mom reaches toward the side table drawer and pulls out a manila folder. The sight of those official-looking papers makes my stomach tighten. Dad leans forward, elbows on the table, something he'd normally scold us for doing. We've been thinking about Tommy's future, he says, referring to my 5-year-old nephew, who's conveniently spending the night at a friend's house. College isn't getting any cheaper. College. I nod cautiously, unsure where this is heading. The thing is, Dad continues with unnerving calm, Kendra will help Darren pay off his son's college loan. Not, we were hoping, or we wanted to ask if. Just a statement of fact, as if my participation had already been confirmed. The world seems to tilt slightly. I stare at him, waiting for the punchline that doesn't come. I'm sorry, what? My voice sounds distant, like it's coming from someone else. It's all worked out. Mom jumps in, sliding the folder toward me. $42,000. You'd be a co-signer, of course, but with Darren's credit history. Her words fade into background noise as memories flash through my mind. Standing on the gymnasium stage at 16, accepting my science award while my parents' seats remained empty, working late shifts at Howard's Diner, serving pancakes to drunk college kids at 2 a.m., while trying to study biology between tables. The stack of college acceptance letters with scholarship offers that my father had dismissed with a wave of his hand. Not enough to make a difference. And then Darren, who'd barely graduated high school, receiving a brand new Camaro just for getting accepted to community college, a school he'd drop out of before the first semester ended. Kendra? Mom's voice pulls me back to the present. Did you hear what I said? I'm trying to understand, I say slowly. You want me to co-sign a loan for Tommy's college fund? He's 5 years old. It's about planning ahead, Dad says firmly. Interest rates are favorable now. Mom dabs at her eyes with the corner of her napkin. Darren and Jessica are really struggling since he lost that promotion. You know how hard it's been for them. Family helps family, Dad adds with that tone that's always shut down any argument. That's how we raised you. I look at Darren, who suddenly finds the pattern on his dessert plate fascinating. Jessica adjusts her napkin nervously, folding and refolding it into smaller squares. A cold realization washes over me. How did you know about my bonus? The slight widening of Mom's eyes confirms what I already suspect. My recent promotion and accompanying bonus weren't public knowledge. I'd mentioned it only to my boss in HR. Well, Mom stammers. Richard from accounting. Dad cuts in smoothly. Ran into him at the golf club last week. He mentioned how well you're doing. Richard, who just happens to be Dad's old college roommate. The pieces click into place with nauseating clarity. I see. I take a deliberate sip of water, buying time to steady my voice. Can I see the paperwork? Mom practically lunges to hand me the folder, relief evident in her expression. I flip through the document slowly, noting the terms, the The payment schedule, the obligations. $42,000 for a child who might not even want to attend college 13 years from now. These are pretty detailed. I observe, keeping my tone neutral. How long have you been planning this? The uncomfortable glances they exchange tell me everything. It's a solid investment in Tommy's future, Dad replies, avoiding my actual question. I close the folder and place it carefully on the table. I need time to think about this. Of course, sweetie, Mom says quickly, patting my hand. We understand. But they don't understand. Not really. Their confident smiles as they exchange glances reveal everything I need to know. They believe they've already won, that my hesitation is merely a formality before I inevitably give in, just as I always have. Not this time. The next morning, the light filters through my apartment's thin curtains as I hunch over my laptop, scanning the company intranet for our transfer policy. Page after page of corporate jargon swims before my eyes, but the essential information finally emerges. Boston employees can request transfers to other offices with just 2 weeks' notice if a position is available. My finger hovers over the San Diego openings. 3 biomedical engineering positions, all lateral moves. A tentative hope flutters in my chest. The sharp knock on my door makes me jump. I slam my laptop closed before crossing my studio apartment in 5 quick steps. Mom stands in the hallway, clutching a Tupperware container. Thought you might want some leftover pie. Her smile looks rehearsed, like she practiced it in the car mirror. Thanks. I was just about to head out. I don't invite her in, but she slides past me anyway, her perfume the same white diamonds she's worn since 1992 filling my small space. Your place always looks so economical. She sets the container on my counter and glances around with barely concealed disapproval. Have you thought more about our discussion? I focus on making coffee. It's only been 12 hours, Mom. Well, I may have mentioned to Aunt Beverly that you're helping with Tommy's college fund. She adjusts my refrigerator magnets. And Cousin Rachel, and Pastor Wilson. The mug nearly slips from my hand. You what? Everyone is so proud of you, sweetheart, she beams. Such a generous aunt. My throat tightens. I never agreed. Oh, before I forget. She rummages through her purse. Your father asked me to drop off your performance review from last quarter. Richard was kind enough to share it. Ice floods my veins as she places the familiar company document on my counter. The confidential stamp across the top might as well be flashing in neon. You've been tracking my finances. It's not a question. Mom waves her hand dismissively. We're just keeping tabs on our daughter's success. Family business. After she leaves, my phone pings with a text from Darren. What kind of aunt refuses to help her nephew? I block his number. The next morning, I spot Mom in our company lobby, waving frantically through the glass doors. My coworkers glance curiously as she corners me, thrusting her phone in my face. Look at Tommy's school picture. Isn't he handsome in his little bow tie? The spitting image of Darren at that age. I gently push her hand away. Mom, I'm late for a meeting. He's so excited about college. Her voice carries across the lobby, already talking about being a doctor. Heat crawls up my neck as I notice people staring. That evening, my boss calls me into his office. Your father and I had quite the dinner last night. Never knew he played golf at Brookline. My stomach drops. My father had dinner with you? He nods, smiling. Proud man. Kept going on about how you're supporting your brother's family. Said you're co-signing some big loan for your nephew's education. I somehow make it through the rest of the day before collapsing onto a bench in the park across from our building. My phone rings a number I don't recognize. Kendra? It's Susan Greeley. We met at your parents' anniversary party last year. I vaguely recall a woman with chunky turquoise jewelry. I just wanted to say how wonderful it is, what you're doing for Darren and Tommy. Your parents told everyone at Bridge Club yesterday. The manipulation machine is fully operational. The next morning, on Tuesday, Maria from accounting pulls me into the break room. Those of your parents in the lobby yesterday? I nod, stirring my coffee with unnecessary force. My sister went through something similar. Maria leans closer. Family thinking her promotion meant community property. It nearly broke her. Her understanding glance offers the first genuine human connection I've felt in days. Later, Linda from HR notices me staring blankly at my computer. Everything okay, Kendra? You look exhausted. Before I can answer, she continues. By the way, San Diego's still looking for someone with your qualifications. The sunshine might do you good. That night, my old roommate Alexa calls. Hey stranger, how's Boston treating you? Our conversation drifts to her life in California until she says, You know my spare room is yours anytime, right? San Diego's got plenty of biomedical firms. The universe seems to be offering exit routes in every direction. My therapist's office feels like the only safe space left that night. What you're describing is financial manipulation, Doctor. Reynolds says. Your success has made you a target. But they're family, I whisper. Family respects boundaries, she counters. Would you treat Tommy this way when he's grown? I'm pondering her words the next afternoon when Dad's booming voice echoes through our company lobby. There she is. My girl. He strides across the marble floor, manila envelope in hand, ignoring the receptionist's request to sign in. Just need your signature for little Tommy's future. Every head turns. My colleagues pause mid-conversation. The security guard looks uncertain whether to intervene. I freeze, documents thrust toward me, my father's expectant smile, the weight of public expectation pressing down. Can we discuss this privately? I manage. Nonsense. Nothing to hide here. Just family helping family. I retreat to the bathroom, lock myself in a stall, and press my forehead against the cool metal door. In the quiet, something crystallizes within me, a decision forming like a diamond under pressure. That night, I requested a meeting with HR for 7 a.m. the next morning, on Thursday, to explain the situation and protect myself. I emailed my apartment manager about early lease termination options. I opened a new bank account at a credit union across town. As I carefully place my framed engineering degree into a cardboard box, my phone lights up with calls from Mom, Dad, and 3 unknown numbers. I silence each one. For the first time in 29 years, the power shifts. On Friday, the doorbell chimes again this week. I glance at my watch. 7:15 a.m. Too early for package delivery. Too late to pretend I'm asleep. Through the peephole, I spot Mom's familiar beige cardigan and Dad's imposing frame behind her. Darren hovers in the background, his wife Jessica clutching a photo album I recognize all too well. Tommy's first 5 years. I count to 10 before opening the door, plastering on what I hope passes for a welcoming smile. Surprise! Mom chirps, surging forward to embrace me. Her perfume, the same she's worn since I was a child, envelops me in a cloud of nostalgia and obligation. We brought breakfast, Dad announces, holding up a bag from Howard's Diner. The same place where I'd worked midnight shifts while struggling through biochemistry finals. The irony isn't lost on me. They file into my modest studio apartment like an invading army, rearranging my furniture without asking. Jessica places the photo album prominently on my coffee table, while Darren sprawls across my reading chair. We thought we'd help you look at apartments today, Mom says, unpacking containers of pancakes. There's a nice 1-bedroom in our building. Mrs. Callahan is moving to Florida next month. I freeze, fork halfway to my mouth. Why would I need a new apartment? Dad's eyebrows arch. To save money for Tommy's fund, of course. No sense paying Boston rents when you could stay with us. Jessica flips open the photo album. Tommy asked about you yesterday. Where's Auntie Kendra? He thinks you're angry with him. Her voice breaks perfectly on cue. How do you explain to a 5-year-old that his opportunities are being denied? My phone buzzes another call this morning from Uncle Pete, no doubt ready with his own lecture about family duty. I silence it without looking. I haven't denied anything, I say carefully. I just need time. Yes, we know, Dad cuts in. But the bank appointment is on Tuesday, in 11 days. The interest rates won't wait forever, Kendra. The walls of my apartment seem to contract. I excuse myself to the bathroom, locking the door behind me. In the mirror, I barely recognize my own reflection, the dark circles under my eyes, the tension pulling at my mouth. My gaze drifts to the shower tile where, 3 years ago, I'd sat fully clothed under ice-cold water, clutching my final student loan payment confirmation. $63,000. Paid in full. No one had been there to celebrate with me. Mom and Dad were at Darren's housewarming party that weekend. I'd worked 3 jobs. Mornings at the campus bookstore, evenings waiting tables, weekends doing data entry for a local research firm. For 6 years, I'd lived on ramen and coffee, turning down movies, concerts, even a semester abroad in Copenhagen. My textbooks were always secondhand, my laptop held together with duct tape. My boss's words from last month's performance review float back to me. Kendra, your remarkable self-reliance is what sets you apart in this department. He'd had no idea how deeply that quality was forged by necessity, rather than choice. Taking a deep breath, I flush the toilet to maintain the illusion and splash water on my face. When I emerge, I've already decided what I must. You know what? I say, helping myself to a pancake I don't want. Maybe you're right. Family comes first. The relief on their faces would be comical if it weren't so predictable. I knew you'd come around, Dad says, patting my shoulder. What they don't see is my finger discreetly tapping a text to Maria. Confirm SD transfer. Now. During that week, I became the perfect daughter. I attend Sunday dinner 2 days later at my parents' house, nodding thoughtfully when Dad explains the tax benefits of co-signing the loan. I listen attentively as Mom outlines the perfect payment schedule. 9 days from today, Tuesday works for the bank appointment. I tell them, smiling as I pick at my pot roast. I'll bring all my documentation. That night, after I came back home, I book a one-way flight to San Diego, leaving Monday morning, a day before our supposed bank meeting. I can't believe they don't suspect anything, Maria whispers as we load another box into her SUV at midnight. The streetlight casts long shadows across the parking lot of my apartment building. They see what they expect to see, I reply, checking for neighbors before handing her my grandmother's silver picture frame, the one thing I couldn't bear to ship. People who always get their way stop looking for resistance. Maria nods, understanding in her eyes. 6 months ago, she'd escaped a financially abusive relationship with her ex. She recognizes the signs. The storage unit is paid through next month, she confirms. And HR has processed everything under confidential status. Back in my increasingly empty apartment, I sit cross-legged on the bare mattress and open my laptop. An email from Alexa, my college roommate, appears with detailed information about San Diego neighborhoods if I want to find something else instead of her spare room. She is also helping me continuously. My therapist's voice message follows. I've reviewed your draft letter. It's clear, firm, and doesn't apologize unnecessarily. Remember what we discussed about guilt versus responsibility. In days to come, the biggest irony is that my family believes I'm weakening under their pressure. Mom calls on Thursday, with good news they've scheduled the bank appointment for Tuesday at 10 a.m. We're so proud of you, honey, she says. Darren and Jessica are taking Tommy out for ice cream tonight to celebrate. I murmur agreement while packing my professional certifications into a document case. My resignation letter sits in an envelope on the counter, addressed to my landlord. Not that I need to give notice, I've been month to month for years, expecting something like this might happen. Friday, my last day at the Boston office, passes in a blur of handshakes and knowing glances from Maria and the HR director. I clear my desk methodically, telling curious coworkers I'm just organizing. Nobody questions the extra bag I carry out. When Darren calls on Saturday evening to check in, I assure him everything is on track. You won't regret this, he says, relief evident in his voice. Family sticks together. Yes, I agree quietly. Family should stick together. Monday arrives with a text from Mom, wearing my blue suit to the bank tomorrow. So excited for this new chapter for our family. I don't reply. At 5 a.m., the movers arrive as scheduled, taking the last of my essential belongings. By 6:30, my apartment holds nothing but the furniture that came with it and an envelope on the kitchen counter. Standing in the empty space, I feel a strange sense of lightness. For years, I've carried the weight of unmet expectations and unequal treatment. Tomorrow, they'll discover that their perfect, reliable Kendra has finally learned to say no, not with words they could argue against, but with actions they cannot reverse. My phone chimes with a flight check-in notification. In 4 hours, I'll be halfway across the country, beginning a life measured by my own definition of obligation. For the first time in months, I smile without forcing it. I'm 30,000 feet above Pennsylvania when my phone vibrates for the 20th time this morning. The sun glints off the wing as I angle away from the window, tilting my screen to avoid glare. Another text from Mom. Dinner at 6. We need to finalize the paperwork. Dad's invited the whole family. The flight attendant passes with a beverage cart, her practiced smile briefly meeting mine. Something to drink? Just water, thanks. My voice sounds steadier than I feel. While she pours, I scroll through the cascade of messages. 12 from Mom, 8 from Dad, 15 from Darren, each one more insistent than the last. My brother's most recent, Tommy's asking where his Ant Island, don't be selfish. I turn my phone off and slip it into my bag. In precisely 43 minutes, they'll be standing outside my empty apartment while I continue flying west. The water tastes clean, like possibility. For the first time in months, I take a deep breath that doesn't feel like it's being measured and judged. Back in Boston, I imagine my family's synchronized arrival at my building tomorrow morning. Dad parking his Buick in the visitor's spot, Mom checking her lipstick in the visor mirror, Darren rehearsing whatever guilt-inducing speech they've crafted together. Jessica probably trailing behind, clutching Tommy's hand while wearing that perpetual expression of apologetic complicity. They'll buzz my apartment. Once, twice, 3 times before Mr. Finley, my landlord, emerges from 1 Ampere. Kendra moved out yesterday, he'll tell them, reaching into his cardigan pocket. Left this for you. The sealed envelope I'd handed him contains a single page. 3 paragraphs explaining that I've accepted a transfer to our San Diego office. No apologies. No forwarding address. Just the truth. I deserve the life I've worked for. My phone would be exploding now if it were on. Dad calling my workplace, his authoritative voice demanding information from the receptionist. This is William Langley. I need to speak with my daughter immediately. I picture Marissa at the front desk, following the instructions I'd left with HR. I'm sorry, sir. Kendra no longer works at this location. The panic would spread through them like wildfire. Mom leaving tearful voicemails that start with concern. Sweetheart, we're worried about you, and inevitably transition to manipulation. How could you do this to us after everything we've sacrificed? Darren's texts would take a different approach. You can't just vanish. We're family. And later, you're making Mom cry. Dad's furious. Fix this now. By evening, the extended family will be involved. Aunt Patricia posting cryptic Facebook messages about the younger generation abandoning family values. Uncle Steve calling my old college roommates looking for information. Cousin Melanie, always eager to stir drama, speculating wildly in the family group chat. The pilot announces our descent into Chicago for my connection. I watch the sprawling city materialize through scattered clouds, geometric and orderly from this height. My next flight leaves in 90 minutes towards my freedom. The California sun greets me like an old friend when I finally land in San Diego. Stepping off the plane, the temperature difference is immediate, a warm embrace compared to Boston's lingering April chill. Alexa waits beyond security, her familiar face a lighthouse in unfamiliar territory. You actually did it, she says, hugging me tightly. I'm so proud of you. I can't believe I actually did it either, I admit as we walk toward the exit. The terminal bustles with travelers heading in every direction, none of them carrying the weight of family obligation I've just shed. Alexa's guest room is simple but perfect white walls, a desk by the window overlooking a garden, and most importantly, 3,000 miles between me and Boston. She helps me unpack the 2 suitcases containing my essential belongings. The rest will arrive with the moving company next week. How does it feel? She asks, hanging a blouse in the closet. Terrifying. Liberating. I pause, searching for the right word. Necessary. My first day at the new office on Tuesday passes in a blur of introductions and orientation. Nobody here knows about Darren or Tommy or the loan. When the HR manager asks why I transferred, I simply say, I needed a fresh start, and she nods without pressing further. During lunch break, I found a quiet bench outside and finally decided to check all the notifications. The notification count is staggering. 67 texts, 39 voicemails, 14 emails. I scan the previews, creating mental categories. Guilt, anger, threats, demands. One message from Mom stands out. Your father called your boss and had quite the conversation. I can imagine how that went. Dad's indignation meeting the professional boundary of my former supervisor. For once, corporate policy works in my favor. They can't disclose my new location without consent. Family friends are beginning to question the narrative. A text from Mrs. Wilson, my parents' neighbor. Your mother seems distraught. Said you disappeared without warning. Is everything okay? From Darren, the most revealing message of all. The bank denied our loan application. This is your fault. The power shift is palpable even through text. Their carefully constructed plan has crumbled in my absence. The money they counted on is beyond reach. The control they assumed was permanent has slipped through their fingers. I select one message to respond to Tommy's. Aunt Kendra had to move for work, buddy. I'll send you something special for your birthday next month. Love you. 3 days later, Mom calls at dawn. Your father's in the hospital, she says without greeting. Chest pains. The doctor says it's stress-related. My stomach drops as familiar guilt floods in. Did I cause this? Should I go back? That afternoon, my therapist's voice provides clarity during our scheduled video session. Notice the timing of this health crisis. Notice the immediate call to inform you. Ask yourself what response they're trying to elicit. I send a tasteful arrangement to Dad's hospital room. The card reads simply, wishing you a speedy recovery. I'm safe and happy. Kendra. No return address. No promises to return. Just the truth, delivered with compassion and boundaries intact. The San Diego sun streams through the windows of Coastal Brews, casting golden rectangles across the polished wooden table, where I've strategically positioned myself. 3 months of California living has transformed me, not just the subtle tan or the lighter highlights in my hair, but something in my posture, my eyes. The barista delivers my Americano with a friendly nod that still feels novel after years of East Coast reserve. When the coffee shop door swings open, admitting a blast of warm air and my parents, I don't flinch. Their appearance at my workplace yesterday, Mother's theatrical tears, Father's commanding presence had been calculated to ambush me. Today, I've chosen the battlefield. Kendra. Father's voice carries that familiar note of authority as they approach, Mother trailing half a step behind him like always. Both look slightly rumpled, as if their Boston wardrobe doesn't quite translate to Southern California. This ridiculous situation has gone on long enough. I gesture to the empty chairs across from me. Please, sit down. They exchange a glance before settling in, Father's mouth already forming words I've heard countless times before. I raise my hand slightly, and to my surprise, he stops. Before we begin, I say, I want to thank you for coming all this way. The polite opening clearly throws them off script. Mother adjusts her pearl earring, a nervous habit I've observed since childhood, while Father narrows his eyes, recalibrating. We had no choice, Mother says, voice wavering. You left without a word. Your brother's been devastated. Tommy asks where his aunt went. Security escorted us from your building, Father adds, leaning forward. Your own parents. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? I take a measured sip of coffee. About as humiliating as you showing up at my workplace demanding I sign loan papers in front of my colleagues? Father's face flushes. Family obligations. Let's talk about family obligations. I reach down and lift a leather portfolio from my bag. Not manila like the folder they'd presented at that fateful dinner, but expensive, professional. A small power move I'd learned from watching Father negotiate with contractors over the years. I open it carefully. I've prepared some documents I'd like to review with you. Mother glances at Father, uncertainty flickering across her face. This isn't following their rehearsed intervention. First, I say, sliding across a photograph of me at 19, wearing a Howard's Diner uniform, dark circles under my eyes. This was taken during finals week my sophomore year. I was working 35 hours while carrying a full course load. I place another photo beside it, Darren with his red Camaro, Father's arm around his shoulder, both beaming. Same month, I note. Different circumstances. Father shifts uncomfortably. Your brother needed encouragement. Yes, I remember the explanation. I continue methodically laying out documents. My scholarship letters, my student loan statements, bank records showing the steady payments I'd made for years. $63,000, I say, tapping the final payment record, paid in full last year, no family help. Mother's eyes well with tears. We would have helped if you'd asked. Would you? I pull out a printed email from Father to my college financial aid office, declining their parent contribution assessment, because when they asked, you refused. The coffee shop hums with quiet conversation around us, a stark contrast to the heavy silence at our table. Father stares at the evidence before him, his jaw working silently. Darren always needed more help than you. He finally says, voice uncharacteristically defensive. You were always so capable. We knew you'd succeed no matter what, Mother adds, reaching for my hand. I don't pull away, but I don't respond to her touch either. Darren needed the extra support. The truth lands between us, stark and undeniable. All those years, all those struggles, they hadn't been oblivious to my efforts. They'd counted on them. You punished me for being capable, I say quietly. The words lack accusation, they're simply fact. And now you want to use that capability to solve Darren's problems again. Father straightens, falling back on authority when reason fails him. We raised you to understand family responsibility. And I learned it, I reply. I learned that I'm responsible for my choices, my future. Darren needs to learn the same lesson. Mother's tears spill over. But Tommy can have a wonderful future without mortgaging mine, I finish. If you're concerned about his education, start a fund yourselves. I did the math. If you redirect what you're still giving Darren monthly, you'd have more than enough for Tommy's education by the time he needs it. Father's mouth opens, then closes. For perhaps the first time in my life, he has no counter-argument. I close my portfolio. I'd like a relationship with you both. I miss you. But moving forward, there are boundaries that can't be crossed. I outline them clearly. No discussions of my finances, no decisions made about me without me, and most importantly, recognition that Darren needs to stand on his own. Those terms aren't negotiable, I conclude. The silence stretches between us. Mother dabs at her eyes with a tissue, mascara creating small shadows beneath them. Father stares at his untouched coffee as if searching for a rebuttal in its depths. You've changed, he finally says, looking up at me. I smile slightly. No, I've always been this person. You're just seeing me clearly for the first time. As they process this new reality, I feel something settle within me, not victory, not vindication, but something quieter and more permanent. The power has shifted, not because I seized it, but because I finally recognized it was mine all along. The Pacific sunset paints my balcony in shades of gold and amber, colors I never saw in Boston. I lean against the railing, savoring the salt-tinged breeze that ruffles my hair. 1 year. 1 full year of freedom. Below my third-floor apartment, palm trees sway along the boulevard. The ocean stretches before me, a living, breathing entity that seems to whisper that possibilities are as endless as its horizon. My phone buzzes with a congratulatory text from my team about the Watson project promotion. It still feels surreal. Senior project manager in biomedical engineering, the position I earned without family connections or favors. Ready for tonight? Alexa calls from inside. Almost. I take one last look at the sunset before joining her in my living room. Alexa arranges a tray of appetizers while Taylor adjusts a congratulations banner. Mark and Jenna debate wine selections in the kitchen. These friends, my chosen family, showed me what genuine support feels like. Your mother emailed again, Alexa says carefully, handing me her phone. I didn't want to send it during work hours. Mom's tentative message reads more like a cautious note from an acquaintance than a mother. She's been sending these monthly updates, Dad's gardening projects, community events, weather reports. Between the lines, I see her small attempts at self-reflection. I hope your work is fulfilling you instead of, when are you coming home? She's trying, I acknowledge, handing back the phone. Unlike your father, Alexa adds. I nod. Dad's silence has become its own kind of answer. After our coffee shop confrontation in San Diego, his inability to adapt to my independence solidified into a wall between us, Darren texted earlier. I tell her, still surprised by this development. He's interviewing for a night manager position at the hardware store. 3 months ago, my brother sent a message that left me staring at my phone in disbelief. You were right to leave. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. The doorbell rings. Dr. Patterson arrives with a bottle of champagne and a warm hug. Finding a therapist within days of moving to San Diego was the best decision I made. Our weekly sessions unpacking family dynamics gave me language for what happened. Financial manipulation, golden child syndrome, parentification. My apartment fills with conversation and laughter as more friends arrive. The contrast between this gathering and that fateful dinner a year ago strikes me powerfully. Here, nobody is planning an ambush or calculating what they can extract from me. Mark raises his glass. To Kendra, who not only revolutionized pediatric insulin delivery systems but showed us all what courage looks like. My phone rings as applause fades. Tommy's face appears on the screen. "Aunt Kendra, I got your present." My nephew shouts, his gap-toothed grin filling the screen. "Mom says I can build the robot myself." Jessica appears behind him, mouthing "thank you" before the call ends. This distance, protective rather than painful, allows me to be the Aunt Tommy deserves. Later, after my friends have gone, I return to the balcony. The scholarship notification from San Diego State University sits open on my tablet. 5 first-generation college students will receive funding next semester through the foundation I established. Not a fortune, but a beginning. My gaze drifts to the framed photo on my desk, my college graduation. I stand alone in my cap and gown, pride evident despite having no family in the audience. Beside it lies a letter from Maria, the first scholarship recipient, thanking me for believing in her potential. The ocean whispers below as stars emerge above. 1 year of freedom has taught me that the strongest family ties aren't always those of blood. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is permission to say no to those who would drain us and yes to our own worth. Some debts can never be repaid, and some should never be incurred. I breathe deeply, feeling the last weight lift from my shoulders. Tomorrow, I'll mentor young women at the STEM workshop. Next week, I'll meet Jake for dinner, a man who values my independence, rather than seeing it as a resource to exploit. Next month, who knows? For the first time in my life, the future stretches before me, unencumbered by obligation, and it looks beautiful.